be live in the next couple of weeks. GC Law is working on proliferating their content for the site that we built for them about a month ago. So this sort of behind-the-scenes copy of the site right now. And probably there we go. This link list across here is I believe it's a menu block. Actually, let's say on the block here. No, actually, that's your standard fare primary links of the theme. But down here we have a menu block that is actually pulling data from the footer menu. And if we actually click on one of these respective students, one of these primary links, this is actually a menu block. This is a really interesting way that we did that use this menu block here. Each of these red items are the secondary items underneath prospective students. Each of these gray items are tertiary items underneath each of these secondary items. And this is all done with CSS styling and some sort of magic. And we'll be, after the site gets launched, I will be putting a blog post on Power for the site and talk about exactly how I did this. But you can start to see that, this is vastly different than what Drupal gives you. And that's all possible with the menu block module. Now I'm going to dive into, some other features here. So you don't have to necessarily start with a level of a menu. You can actually pick a specific item that you want to use as the root of your menu. So let's say that I want to have this item be the root. Change that back to here. That means instead of sort of in context showing the secondary links, I'm going to be displaying this item rooted, and it's going to be displaying on basically every single page because I'm going to, that block is always rooted at that menu item. So it's no longer contextually based on where I am in the menu tree. But like the secondary links is contextually based. So the secondary links block only shows up either on a primary links block or inside one of the pages that's inside this menu block. So that's a very useful feature to have it rooted in a specific item. We're going to put it back to the root here. And all of these features are actually sort of combinable. So basically, you could say, click that as a root and then the secondary level. This is actually the second level based off of this root. So it would show sort of these items. Actually, there aren't any second levels underneath that item. Well, but anyway. Another thing that you can have here is change the starting level. You can have the starting level follow the active item. This probably be a little bit better with, I'm going to change to the navigation menu. And it'll be a little bit easier to understand exactly what's going on here. By the way, are you guys still like awake? I didn't know how to feedback at all, so just sort of talking into a box.
I have your module installed. I love it.
But I'm assuming you're following along. You're actually interested in, because that's probably one thing I can do. Sorry. So following the active menu item. So I'm going to click on the administrator here. This thing that's just saying someone has your mod and stuff. Okay, cool. When I show people about this module, they usually get excited. I can never tell, who's heard of it and who hasn't. So bear with me.
Who's used this one?
If you've heard this before, and hopefully
Who's going to use it
Who,
now that they've
who
seen?
has used this module in an existing site?
So I've configured this, and you want to administer. So if I then clicked on content management, you see that the block is reconfiguring itself. Great. I'm glad you're all going to use it now. You can see that it's now changed this whole tree has shifted down a little following the active item, which is content management. And I'm going to click on the content block here. And again, it's continuing to dive into this tree with us. So that is also pretty darn handy. This is also, we can change whether it's following the active item or showing the active item to children. Play with that yourself, I'll figure it out. Maximum depth allows you to limit the depth of whatever's being shown. For example, if we were back showing the secondary level of our primary menus, you could limit it so it only showed, actually I don't want to do that. So primary links, secondary level, limit to one depth, one layer of menu tree. So we'll go back and click on our Sparky link here, and you can see now that it's only showing, this is basically a duplicate, of our standard theme secondary links. But now it's a block where you want to kind of limit it to having to move this variable around instead of page DPL. You can click on the wrong button here. You're bigger. And how many things? No, there's only one level. So I could change it to 2 levels deep, and it would limit it to only showing 2 levels. Another thing you could do is expand the whole subtree. So we're going to save on that one again, and jump back over to, there it is right there. So you can see that it's, actually it's not very good. Oh yeah, right, let's click over here. So this is our active item. Normally, when this item on your tree is active, it's not going to be expanding the other items that aren't in the active trail. But because we configured it to expand the whole tree, it's going to expand everything. And then sort the menu by the active. This one, I'm going to have to jump back over to the navigation again. Go back to the first level. This item is pretty much, it's mostly useful. The use case would be for like a e-commerce site where you have a really wide navigational tree, a whole bunch of different categories that you're displaying and subcategories of that. And the problem is with that, let me go ahead and save this. Oh, the problem with that sort of menu tree with a lot of items that's very wide and can be pretty deep too, is that if you click on like the last item and then it's showing a subtree of that, and you click on the last item again, you're going to have to scroll way down just to see where's the active item and its children, right? And that doesn't make for a very pleasant experience when you're trying to navigate through the system to find, the $36 through $47 category or subcategory of the blue of the subcategory socks and subcategory clothing. That can be really real pain. So that's what this sorting item does, where it sorts the menu tree by the active menu items trail. So it literally reorganizes things so that the active trail is sort of the first trail that you see in the menu block, and then just lets everything else order show you an example of this with the navigation menu, which we're all super familiar with. Now you can see the navigation menu has, all this other stuff before it has administer. But if we click on administer, it's going to move administer up in order to show you its sub-items. Did I click on, wait a second, did I click on expand all? Might be a little bug here that I need to fix. Anyway, now let's say I wanted to go under site configuration. Again, you can see that it's sorting the tree. So it's moved site configuration above content management and that sort of stuff. Let's go into logging and alerts. And you can see it's continually sorting this tree so that the active trail is right along the top there. Like I said, that should be really useful in e-commerce sites. There might be other use cases that I hadn't thought about that I would also be useful for. I think that's probably enough. Wow, yeah, I probably talked too long about this, but it's a really, really handy module, and I hope you guys use it and like it. So let's go into our next item here. Why is it restarting? Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the Drupal 6 two-step. This is the normal way that people are modifying and rearranging variables. It's way more flexible than Drupal 5 ever was. And certainly more organized procedure-wise. You don't have to worry about that god-awful underscore variables, underscore PHP template underscore variables function, which was just horrendous. With the Drupal 6 two-step, you want to modify a variable, you create a theme preprocess hook function, and change your variables in there, and then you can slightly rearrange your variables inside the actual hook.tpl.php. This is great. But one of the things that you probably found is that you can't move variables from one template to another template. At least it isn't obvious how to do that. And I've actually got a technique that we're going to talk about, breaking up the content variable, that allows you to move variables from one template to another template. I'm going to use CCK as an example here, but actually you can use any variable can be moved to another template with a couple of caveats, and I'm going to get into those caveats. So first thing I want to do, that's the idea that we're going to build towards, moving a variable from one template to another template. But the first thing we want to do is, well, how do I get pieces out of the node's content variable and stick it someplace else? Some of you may know this, but it's kind of a hidden option, and it certainly isn't very. It's not really obvious how this technique works. So CCK can actually break up your content variable into pieces so that you can display the various pieces inside your node TPL. And it's sort of built in there. I believe this was actually patch from Ken Rickard, where we worked at Palantir, and submitted that off to Karen Stevenson, and then she went and expanded upon it, and Whiteshed worked on it a little bit too, I think, and we ended up with this exclude checkbox that is inside the display fields tab. Let's jump over to our site again and going to content types. Let's edit our beer content type. Drupal free is a beer. This is our beer content type. Fields here. We actually have this type is displayed inline. Brewer label is above. Teaser is just a title. We have this is actually a brewer is another content type. So this is a node reference. So we're going to have a full node. This whole node displayed as a full node on this page. Let's go and show you what this looks like now. Wow, I just configured this a little while ago. I hope it's working. Type is beer, filter. Let's see here. Okay. So. Okay, yeah. So it's not pretty at all. But you can see that this is the name of the beer. Brewer is, wow. I just really changed this. Well, let's do something that was, I can't spell Milwaukee. Sorry, guys. It isn't since, no, 1910 or something. I don't know. It's okay. Save it. Jump back here a little bit. Okay, sorry about that. Have some recognizable things in here. Okay. So the brewer is patched, location, Milwaukee. This is okay. I'm thinking maybe it would be nice to, move this brewer information to be like way down here at the bottom. And while we can do that with actually, I better save this. Tab here so I don't lose it. Well, we can rearrange stuff with the CCK fields, which is where content types, beer, managed fields. But we can rearrange stuff here, of course, inside managed fields, move brewer down, something like that. If you look inside your node template, I'm sure that I don't have a node template in this particular theme, so let me copy it there first. Okay. So if you look inside the node template, you notice that there's actually a links variable here that comes after content. Well, what if I wanted the brewer to be displayed below the links? That could be problematic, except that we have this handy exclude checkbox. So let's go and play with that, shall we? Manage fields, we're going to click on exclude. So it's no longer, so what is this exclude checkbox doing? Says it right here. Use the exclude checkbox to exclude an item from content. Wow, it's only got half of what is going on. Can you increase your code size? Sure can. I will do that. I can do this too. So yeah, this is another problem with K here is it's only described half of what it's doing. The exclude checkbox does exclude an item from the content value, but what it also does is it makes sure that it still renders that particular field inside your variables that gets passed to your node template. So all you have to know is, you have to know that sort of secret variable name. But once you know that, going to put the template.php file first here. This is one good thing that I would hope you guys know about. I actually have the Zen Studio. You can tell I really like that program. But it's really useful. It's got a full debugger in it, but it's probably a bit more than most people want to pay for one thing. But then it's a bit more than most people would want to handle. It's got a lot of programmer-friendly stuff, and it's a very, very dense program to learn. So one way that you can find out, I can't tell just by looking at it what are the variables that are available. But if I've installed the develop module, which I already have on this site, then I can start to do some interesting things that allow me to see what variables are actually available for this template. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the Drupal _set message function. Actually, maybe you're not. The Drupal set message function. It's let's flip it over here. When your settings have been saved, that's a Drupal message. And the reason why Drupal knew to display that message was because CCK called this Drupal set message and said, let them know that your settings have been saved. And Drupal then goes, oh, okay, well, I'll display this in the page type. So that's what that function does. And the val module has a sort of the val module has a shortcut function. Just instead of Drupal set message, it does DSMs. And I'm going to type DSM bars, and that should, gosh, I should have checked this out before I did this. That should, oh wait, I'm not displaying Node right yet. So let's go back over to our Pass Blue Ribbon special here. There we go. You can see it's displayed a message, but the message that it's displayed is actually it's actually taken this vars, which is an array, or vars variable, which is an array, and made it this sort of expandable list of items. So the reason why it's displaying two things here is because if you remember we had a node reference. So it's got one time here is, there's the beer, and this is the brewer, right? So this is our 492. This is the actual page that's getting displayed. The node page is getting displayed right now. We're going to scroll down here and look for field brewer. And there we go. This is exactly what we're looking for. The brewer field is the field that we just excluded from being displayed. So if you'll see here, the brewer is no longer being displayed here. We've just got the type of the beer and the description here of the beer, and the brewer is being hidden. And where is the brewer being rendered? It's being rendered inside this field brewer 0, and then an U here. I'm going to click on that. You can see there's our past, and that's all that here. So let's go and try to display this. Let's do something a little weird. So we want to display after. We wanted to display after our links. So now we said we wanted to use. So let's go and. Wait. I don't remember. Field border 0 view. So we're going to take that variable, which we know is in there, and we're going to stick it right on the end of our links variable, so that it's actually getting displayed after the links, if there were some links in it. So how do I know that this is going to work? Let's go back to our node template. So the content variable is wrapped inside this content div, and the links variable is just sort of out there in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to wrap it with just a div here for no particular reason, just so you can tell that I actually did move this variable. And go over here. He zoomed in over too much. Goes all the way down. Resetting my cache, by the way. So now let's reload and see what happened. Nothing happened. Oh man. Flush all caches. Oh, you know what? I just copied this node template over. Maybe that's what it was. Yes. How do I know that we're using the right format? That's a good question. If you went and dived into, where is it, the node object, you're also going to see, all your title, your body. Here's your field again. Recursion. And then your content type, content brewer. This is sort of the raw data that CCK provides for this particular fields. And it's got a bunch of stuff in there. Fields. Wow, it is a bunch of stuff. I don't know, I'm not even seeing what I'm looking for here. There's a different field altogether. Well, basically what you're going to see here is a lot of stuff to choose from. And a lot of times you think you can just sort of print these inside your node templates. And the problem is, especially if you're modifying and printing out a comment variable, is that even though you can see it, it's a variable that's available to you, you shouldn't print it out because Drupal hasn't sanitized all of these things. I'll go back over here. Drupal and CCK only go in and double check that there aren't any XSS exploits, like somebody can embed a JavaScript and type it into their comment. Now, Drupal is smart enough that in certain places it'll strip that out and won't display it to you. But CCK provides you with a lot of raw data here. So you want to be really careful that you're using the right one. And one of the nice things about the exclude checkbox is that one thing it's doing is it's moving the data outside of the node object. The node object is kind of it's a nebulous place. There's some good information in there, but you got to really be careful if you actually use anything from inside there that you're not creating an exploit accidentally. So one of the nice things that the exclude checkbox does is it pulls that field out of there. save and view. And what are those as students treated? Maybe we should test this. Why don't we sit real fast?
You should be able to say, yeah, values for that.
Let's go and edit this. Not sure if this is going to work. I'm going to try it. And if it doesn't work, then we'll just, know that I'm not really the right person to talk about XSS exploits. There's a couple different places. Save. Okay, now let's go look at. So we put it in the title here. You can see that it's been sanitized, so it's not actually JavaScript anymore. And here it's also the same thing's happening with content variable, of course, is set to use. No body, that's also safe. Aha, here we go. No title has not been sanitized for use. So if you just went into the node and go, oh, look, there's the title, I'll display the title. If you decided that you wanted to go ahead and do that, let's try that over here. That's the way. Yeah. You've just introduced an XSS exploit because right there is some JavaScript. Let's inspect this here. This one. Right there. JavaScript exploit because you didn't use the wrong field. So no title is not safe. Hoping I haven't used no title anywhere. But that's the long answer to why you need to be careful about which things you choose. Now, go back over here. Field brewer. CCK is supposed to have sanitized that for you. I mean, that's one of the points of the exclude checkbox is that it does that for you. And why aren't I getting it to display here? Oh, you know what? That's something I've done wrong here. Field 0 view. Undefined variable, field brewer.
It's in a fields array. It's in an array called fields array.
Does anybody see what I'm doing around here? Wait. I think I know what I'm doing wrong here. Bars. Where is it? It's still in bars. That's why. There we go. So I always like to make sure that load preprocess function is going to be run for all node types, not just for this node And there's our brewer information being displayed below, and I'm going to inspect this item, and you're going to see that, yes, there's that My Links. It's inside the My Links div, which I created specifically to show you that I did, in fact, move the variable. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That took a bit longer than I thought. I'm going to apologize for that. Now, so now we've moved it inside the same template. What if I want to move it like over here to be in the sidebar? Well, the immediate problem you're going to run across is the sidebar is inside the page TPL. It's not inside the node TPL. So how do we get around that? We're going to exploit some things. Let's see here. Just going to start over again. Yes. Wow. We're going to exploit the fact that all of the TPLs in Drupal, they don't get rendered all at the same time. They get rendered in a certain order. Need to finish in 5. Okay, we'll do this real fast. I'm sorry I didn't get to quite a bit of stuff that we didn't get to. So templates, they get rendered in certain order. The very first thing that you're going to see rendered is probably the page TPL. But we can exploit the fact that the templates are getting rendered, and therefore the pre-process functions are getting called in a certain order in order to move variables around between different pre-process functions. And we're going to use that using PHP's static variables. So I've got this handy little function, which all it does, there we go, some you guys can see that. All it does is, well, okay, hard to point at it without moving it off this edge of the screen here. All it does is create its own static variable, which it initializes to just an empty array. Now, the nice thing about static variables is that they retain their value each time the function gets called. So if you went and set bars to be 3 the first time you called that function, when you went back to that function, it would still be set to 3. Or more specifically here, we're going to be calling this function with a name and a value pair that if we've given it a value, it's going to save that value inside this bars array underneath that name. And every time I call this site theme variable share function, it's going to continue to remember that name value pair inside of this array until we set it to something else. It's just going to remember it every time that function is called. So we're going to take this variable, which we put inside the vars links, and instead, let's not put it there. Let's call this little helper function that I created variable share, and we'll give it a value. The name is going to be brewer, and we're going to set this. So there we go. We've called the site variable share function with a name of brewer and the value equal to the value of this this field inside our preprocessed node. And then over here, let's call variable share for the brewer name sort of dot pair. So yeah, let's go back down to here and look at this what's going on inside here. So did not, if we do pass a value to this function, so if the value is not null, it's going to save that value to that name, right? And then it's going to return that value. If we don't pass this function a value, it's still going to return this the name that we requested. So in our preprocessed node, we've saved this variable, and then inside the page, we're asking for it back. So now we've got this brewer variable, and I'm going to stick it right on the end of our right sidebar. And let's see what happens when we do that.